Hey, Fed Heads, welcome to another episode of Sharing Our Pairings. This is episode 31, Cameroon time, because it's long overdue. Thanks very much for tuning in. Broadcast live around the world on YouTube, Cigar Federation, and the Cigar Federation app. Whether you're listening live or listening to podcast via iPhone or Android, we appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to get your questions in through the Q&A app on Google+. I'm your host, John, the Cigar Surgeon, as always, with my co-host, Robbie Rass. Rob, what is going on, brother?
John, what's happening, man? Sorry, I was pulling up a website and it started loading, and it was you could tell there was going to be some animation and things. Nice. And I thought for sure there was going to be music right when you started talking. But so basically, I could have just gotten away with it without telling anybody anything. But I like to divulge. Yeah, I'm excited, dude. We're finally smoking some Cameroons. I'm about knee deep into my my Hemingway work of art here. I was complaining about the Vitola when I lit it because it's got the little nubbin on the end there.
Little perfector nub.
Yeah, and it just, you look at it and you think, wow, it's going to be really easy to light, and it never is. Never is. Just makes it more difficult. But it looks cool.
And I am smoking the Hemingway Signature Cameroon. I have tons and tons and tons of the Hemingway short story. I probably buy a box every 4 to 5 months, and they're perfect little smoke. They're like 4.5 by 44 or 46, and I go through them like candy because they're delicious. But I figured since we're doing a bit of a longer show that this is a little bit better. It's 6 by 46. Although with the smaller ring gauge, it does go much faster. I'm used to smoking the 52 ring gauges or 54 ring gauges, and those last a little bit longer.
Yeah, for sure. This is a shorter cigar, and I should have the specs up about it, but I don't. It's the little Perfecto. Let me see. I'll show you guys. And I know you guys have smoked this thing before, so it's like an $8 or $9 cigar. I just looked at the box price on Famous or something like that. It's $183 for 25 of them. Comes out to like $7.25 a cigar. They're so damn good. I don't smoke them as often as you do. I mean, you're going through a lot of them. I have a handful of Fuentes. I mean, I've never reviewed a Fuente, I don't think. I just, for whatever reason, I don't gravitate to them, even though I really enjoy them every time I smoke them.
For me, it's kind of one of those cigars, and I tend to poo-poo a lot on Dominican origin cigars just because a lot of times they're not really to what my palate likes. But for me, I don't think there's such a thing as a bad Fuente. Like, I can pick up whatever Fuente, smoke it, and it's great. I don't really need to know what wrapper it is, and I don't need to know or try and figure out what particular Fuente it is. If it's Arturo Fuente, I light it. It's good. I enjoy it. I mean, it's not even like an average level cigar. It's like a good cigar every single time, well constructed, taste good, and tend to pair well regardless of what I'm picking up. In my experience.
Yeah, as I'm smoking this, I'm gonna pour the only alcoholic beverage that we're going to be tasting today. But gonna let it get some air, let it breathe. I can see why some guys who, let's say, grew up on Nicaraguan tobacco, so like newer cigar smokers, like even myself, like I kind of grew up on Nicaraguan tobacco. I mean, I started out, I'm smoking the AJ Fernandez stuff, like right off the bat, the Man of Wars and all that stuff, and that's all Nicaraguan stuff. So to go from that and, the tatuajes and the My Father stuff and, all that stuff, and then to go back and having never smoked something like this and to come back and smoke it, it can be really light if you're used to, a heavier profile smoke. Very elegant. And the way, John, you were kind of describing it in a really interesting way, the sweetness that you get from a Cameroon wrapper. How are you describing it, when we were talking about it before the show?
Well, it kind of reminds me of there's this sort of elegant sweetness you get from a San Andreas Maduro wrapper. So imagine the sweetness from a San Andreas Maduro minus the pepper, minus that sort of chewy, dirty earth, a little bit chewy, dirty earth. And then you take a Connecticut wrapper and just beef it up. So, to me, it's like if you want to talk about a medium body or medium strength cigar, this is the wrapper you use. This is like the perfect medium level wrapper. And like you said, it's got a nice sweetness. It's not overpowering. It's balanced. Rob's destroying his room and probably his laptop. we're carrying on anyways. Yeah, it's
No, everybody's okay.
Everyone's all right. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of nuttiness to it, but like, you're right. I think if someone really gravitates towards, the broadleaf Maduro or Senadris Mexican Maduro, or just that sort of chewy, earthy level, then this might not be the cigar they're looking for, because it is more subtle, it is more elegant, but I think that's good. I mean, it's good to switch things up and exercise your palate a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the way I would describe it is you get more of a full sweetness. Some of the sweeter flavors that you can get from a more mild cigar, from a Connecticut shade wrapper or something like that. That sweet flavor to me is a little bit thin. It's still there and it still tastes good, but it doesn't have the structure and the body to it that some other sweet things would have. But the sweetness from this wrapper, it's just it's a bit fuller. It's not, and I guess it's a bit stronger in flavor, but I don't know. There's just something about it that I really like. It's a fuller, much fuller sweetness to it that I'm really enjoying. Although now I'm just repeating myself, so we could probably move on. But.
I mean, I would say it's almost like honeyed peanuts or like a candied peanut. So you get that initial sweetness, and then there's like more of a full-bodied savoriness underneath it. Again, not like a San Andreas Mexican, where what finishes it is that sort of dirt and leather. It's more the nutty Connecticut level, and it's good. And a little bit about Fuente. Of course, I think everyone's heard of Arturo Fuente. They were established in 1912, started by Arturo Fuente. He's got two sons, Carlos and Arturo Oscar, and they, of course, are owned and operated out of the Dominican Republic. And I think they are one of the most, if not the most, famous cigar company out of the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, I would probably echo that. I mean, everybody knows what Fuente is. I mean, you can find them at just about anywhere that sells cigars. They're going to have Fuente. Even if it's like a gas station that has 3 different cigars, they're going to have a Macanudo. They're going to have like Cielo Gold or something, and they'll have a Fuente in there. The Fuente is everywhere. Absolutely everywhere.
Harley Holmes was asking in our chat room about the Casa Fuente Lounge in Las Vegas. And of course, if you've ever been to Las Vegas, you have to go to the Casa Fuente Lounge. I mean, it's a must if you're a cigar smoker. They got some really, really cool cigars that are exclusive to their lounge. They have some cool hats. A good friend of mine brought one back, which was awesome, although that was from Arizona. But regardless, they've got hats and jackets. They've got ashtrays. They've got all kinds of merch. But again, I think the biggest thing is they've got exclusive cigars to that lounge that you can't buy anywhere else. And I've smoked a few of them, and they're phenomenal. Like, they're really, really good cigars. You'll pay a few bucks for them, but they're good.
Yeah, from what I hear, the Lanceros are the best.
Cool.
I've never had the Lancero. I've smoked a few of the Casa Fuente cigars, and I think they're all the same blend. Or I mean, maybe they change every year. I have no idea. But I've never actually been to the lounge. We've gone to Vegas back-to-back years for IPCPR and somehow never made it.
So we're working our balls off.
Well, there's that. Yeah, and I'm gonna throw everybody kind of under the bus because the group that we go with is not very adventurous. I'm not the most adventurous guy, but I mean, we're in Vegas. Let's go to a decent restaurant. Let's get a decent meal or something. No, we were with a group that wanted to find a routine and stick in that routine.
Wow.
And I'll exclude you from that group, John. You were the one who was like, let's go try something else. Let's go no, everybody else wanted to stay in the same place.
I love adventure, man. I crave adventure. I like finding, new restaurants a lot. In fact, the last time I was in Vegas, just a few months ago, 5 of us, I think, dropped some ungodly amount on a dinner. It was like $1,100 or $1,200 between the 5 of us. But it set a bar for meal and service that, like, I don't know when's going to top. But at any rate, we're not here to talk about Vegas. That kind of got us off topic. We're talking about Cameroon wrappers. Cameroon wrappers are from Africa, based on the Sumatra plant, which is interesting because you wouldn't think that Africa doesn't really come to mind when you think of tobacco growing regions, but it is from Africa. One of the things that stands out is they're sort of a dark chocolate brown. Oftentimes the wrapper is very toothy. And what's interesting is that it's sort of notorious for being a very thin and it tears very easily, so it's very difficult to work with. And the other issue is that the Cameroon leaf itself is very, very small. So if you're looking to blend like a 58 ring, like a 60 ring gauge or 58 ring gauge or whatever, that's going to be really tough because you're not going to find a leaf that big enough to be able to do that. But there are a lot of cigars out there with Cameroon wrapper, and we kind of went hunting, and this kind of seemed like a natural fit, I think, when we were looking through our stock.
Yeah, well, it helped that we both had one. And it's funny. Like, John said, let's do the Cameroon show. I said, okay, yeah, we talk about Cameroon all the time. Let's do one. And I'm thinking, okay, what the hell has a Cameroon wrapper on it? The only ones I could come up with were cigars I didn't have, and for whatever reason, these Hemingways didn't come to mind for me. But I'm glad that did work out. I'm curious because we're going all over the map with these pairings today. I mean, we're starting. All over the map. I mean, we've got. Well, actually, I lied. We have 2 alcoholic beverages today. I've got a sweetened coffee thing that I would never normally drink, and some fancy pants gourmet root beer with a draft style head.
Creamy.
I like a good head.
Heyo.
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 Well, no, I mean the foam.
I says.
When you get the foam on top there.
Yeah, no,
that's what I was talking about.
So we're first up. We've got root beer. I went with
since we're talking about a good head.
So we're talking about good head. Hey, I went with the Natural Brew. I kind of was looking like I wanted something because you had this really cool talk last episode about root beer, and you're talking about your local place had we could do 10 root beer shows just based on their stock. And I was like, well, I kind of want to have a cool root beer and be a part of the cool guy club. And I realized that this is the root beer that I drink all the time. And I started looking at it and I'm like, okay, well, why do I like it? Well, it turns out because it's got like a bunch of really cool natural ingredients. It's got vanilla, anise, sarsaparilla, licorice root, birch, wintergreen oil, and it's got all these sort of complex flavors. It's not just like no offense to Coke or whoever owns them, Barks, but it's got more depth to it, and I like it. It's tasty.
Yeah, I went to Bevmo, and they've got I didn't count, but I'd say like 20 different root beers, and
it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it's 10. But still, I mean, it runs the gamut from, stuff that you would find in a regular place to, stuff that like it's called Rat Bastard. And it's supposed to be, really good. It was like $3 for a 12-ounce bottle of root beer. Wow. And I'm looking at all this stuff, and I kind of did the opposite of what you were thinking, John. Like I wanted to get something that I thought was a little bit more accessible because some of this stuff I'd never seen before. The one that I saw in there, and I know is relatively available around the country. I mean, you can get it at Safeway. Is from Henry Weinhardt's. Henry Weinhardt's was, you probably know them as a beer manufacturer or a brewery or whatever you want to call it. That's how I remember them from back in the day. I remember their beer was always cheap, and it would be like that was the nice beer we would get when we were in college because it was like $1 or $2 more. It's like It's either that and Rolling Rock was exotic too, So that's how I knew Henry Weinhardt's, and they actually make a few different kinds of sodas. They make a cream soda. They make an orange cream soda that's supposed to be very good. Although if I pulled up on their website, there's nothing on their website about their root beer. It's just about their beer, which apparently they still make. I had no idea. So I've pulled up what the sodapopstop.com has some info on it.
Soda Pop Stop. That is a great website.
I've never, it looks like they've just got a bunch of different, there's an egg cream ale or egg cream soda. I don't want to know about that. Anyway, moving forward. It just says it's a substantial traditional root beer. A hint of honey, vanilla, and sassafras. and
That's
sassafras. That's kind of that regular root beer flavor that you're going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking in here. They've got there's some vanilla extract in there, honey essence, and sassafras extract. That's basically, kind of your basic stuff. I've had this a bunch of times. It's really, really good because, as John alluded to earlier, really creamy. It's not going to look any different than any root beers, and it really doesn't taste that different. But it's got a nice creamy texture to it, and it's got that kind of herbal bite that you're going to get from a root beer. So I felt like it was a pretty good one. And again, Henry Weinhardt's, you can find it at Safeway. So I wanted to be cool but accessible. That's what I was going for.
Well, a little bit about Natural Brew. The root beer that I'm drinking, formed in 1994. They're known for they tout that they do microbrew brewing technique for the root beer, so it's not a huge assembly line vatting. It's all small batch, 170 calories if you care about calories, which probably should. But like I said, this is, when I want a root beer, this is kind of the root beer I reach for. And it's got a very nice texture to it for a mouthfeel. And I think it pairs well. Like it's definitely complementing the cigar. It's not competing with the cigar. It does a great job of sort of removing any like if there's any harsh, bitter tobacco left over. The root beer, I think, does a really good job of cleansing the palate. And I would give this pairing a thumbs up. It's not amazing, but I would do this. I would sit here, drink a root beer, smoke this cigar, and for me, this is good. This is a good pairing.
So we talked about the creamy head. So I took a sip, and you can just see it. It's the liquid is here, and this is built up since I took the sip.
Yep.
So it's the kind where if you pour this out over ice or something, it takes a good 20 minutes for the
stop foaming,
for the head to go down. I'm not exactly sure what to do here. I didn't bring out any glasses, so I didn't really plan ahead. But smoking the cigar already, obviously, I'm about a third of the way through. Taking the first few sips of the Weinhardt's, I'm getting a very similar experience that you're getting, John. There's a nice sweetness, obviously, from the root beer. The flavors of the root beer aren't really enhanced. It's bringing out some interesting notes in the cigar. It's bringing out that nutty flavor that for me was kind of tangential. It was just kind of in the background. But now that it's
fancy.
Thank you. It's masking a little bit of the sweetness that I'm getting from the cigar. So I'm going to get more of the earthy notes out of it, that nutty flavor. There's a little bit of a smokiness that's coming out of the cigar now that wasn't there before. But it's not, they're not really competing. It is, like I said, masking the sweetness that I was getting out of the cigar a little bit. And you kind of expect that when you're having a root beer, unless you're having, like, I don't know, an infused cigar or something you're going to have, or with a sweet tip or something like that. Of course, it's going to mask some of that sweetness because it's a sweetened beverage. But the pairing is really nice. I mean, I feel like I could pair root beer with almost any cigar, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we talk about, we could do a root beer show with a bunch of different root beers, but I just feel like it'd be like, they're all great.
Uh-huh.
I mean, maybe the flavors of each individual beverage are going to be a little bit different. But I mean, maybe there's a handful of cigars out there that I wouldn't want to pair root beer with, but off the top of my head, I can't really think of any of them. Even if if something like a total pepper bomb, I still think that would go well. I don't know.
Just a reminder to our audience, you're listening to Sharing Our Pairings, episode 31, Cameroon time, broadcast on cigarfederation.com, Cigar Federation app, and on YouTube. If you're listening through podcast on iTunes or Android, we appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to get your questions in through the Google Plus Q&A app. We're talking about Cameroon wrappers, and we kind of waxed a little poetic at the start of it was a love fest for Arturo Fuente. One of the things I just like to mention, especially as a cigar reviewer, just absolutely drives me up the frickin' wall, is if I pick up an Arturo Fuente and I don't have the cello on there with the identifier, it is a absolute egg hunt to find out what type of cigar I'm smoking, because if you can see the band, so the band color in the sort of black up top and black up bottom will narrow it down to a handful of cigars that it could possibly be. if you don't know what kind of wrapper it is, because maybe, you don't know what a Cameroon wrapper looks like versus a Maduro wrapper, you're going to be taking a best guess. It's really, really tough. Now, some of them, they put a footband on, which, I guess that's okay, but then you have to do this decoding footband thing where you're like, okay, what color is the footband? Is it green? Is it blue? Is it red? Honestly, it drives me bonkers. I know that, there's a financial aspect to it, that you can't just be throwing a second band on cigars because it raises the price. And honestly, these are, for what they are phenomenally good value, but it does irk me. It drives me bonkers.
It's funny. We were talking about this before the show started, and then we're kind of going back and forth, and we actually got into kind of a discussion. Well, it could be this, but yeah, but it's probably this. But no, but they all say Grand Reserva, maybe, but it's not one of the Grand Reservas. So it really does get kind of confusing, unless you're it's like learning to speak a language, I guess. Once you get all the identifiers down, you'll know it moving forward. But if you're new and maybe you didn't buy it at your local B&M, or a buddy gave it to you or something, sometimes it's difficult to figure out what the hell that you're working with. Although there's a lot of information out there online, you can find it. But I would always go to Kip from Half Ashed, because Kip has the Arturo Fuente band tattooed on his arm, and I would just say, "Hey, Kip, which one is this?" And he would know exactly which one it was. And
nice.
But if that's your thing and you're really into it and you study it, but it can be that way with some. Like I felt that way about Roma Craft at the beginning when they didn't put bands on stuff. And it was really kind of hard to figure out what the hell you're working with unless you had all of them. You bought them in a 5-pack and they had the sticker on the outside or whatever. But anyway, to get back to the pairing a little bit, definitely bringing out those earthy notes in the cigar. There's some earthiness to it that you're going to get whether you're pairing it or not. But to me, that was more of a background thing. That sweetness was more up front, and that's getting replaced. There's lots of nutty notes, kind of a dirty earth in a good way underneath. It's not overpowering, but it's definitely there. And I wasn't picking up that all that much, before I started pairing it. So, but again, I think it's a great pairing, and I challenge somebody to find a cigar that doesn't pair well with root beer. I know a cigar that doesn't pair well with ginger ale, but give me one. I'm never going to let that go. Give me one that doesn't pair well with root beer, and I don't know. I won't believe it.
So I'm going to take some club soda here on recommendation of Jose Blanco, who's a big proponent of using club soda to cleanse your palate between tastings. I hate club soda. Just throwing it out there. Club soda is nasty, but I'm going to use it. I'm going to cleanse my palate.
I like club soda, actually. Give me a little slice of lime in there. Don't squeeze it. Just throw the little slice in there. Wash it off first because it's gross if you don't. And a little ice, and that's it's very refreshing to me. I enjoy club soda, but I never really used it as a palate cleanser in our show before. And it makes a lot of sense because it's carbonated. It's got that effervescence that really helps kind of clean off the tongue. And it does do a really nice job of cleaning the palate in between. So I'm glad that you that you recommended that. I've got my Schweppes over here. I tried to find Canada Dry, but I don't have it at the house. So. Sorry. I
only used to drink Canada Dry when I was sick. So to me, I can't drink Canada Dry because it's associated so closely with being very, very sick. So yeah, exactly. So moving on to the second pairing, one of my favorite beverages. I know many people out there: Skip Martin, Enrique Sanchez, Jonathan with Drew Estate, love Florida Caña. It's hard not to love Florida Caña. It's delicious. It's Nicaraguan. This is a Centenario 18 because it's dirt cheap in the airport when you land, and I certainly go to Nicaragua enough to bring back a couple bottles. And I did because the guy oftentimes will give you a great two for $64 deal, I think it is. So I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then and inevitably drink one on the road, so to speak, at the hotel because I love rum. But Nicaragua, Florida Caña, of course, is based out of Nicaragua. Started in 1890 at San Antonio Sugar Mill in Chichigalpa. I don't know if I said that right. Chichigalpa. Owned by the Pellis family for 5 generations. So it's been in the family for a very long time. And they described the Flor de Caña 18 as having a rich entry leading to a viscous, dryish, full-bodied palate with dark chocolate, caramel, roasted nuts, brown spice flavors, and finishing with long charred oak, vanilla, and burnt nutty fade. I don't know about all that, but while you talk about your beverage, I'm going to get my Flor de Caña on.
I wonder what a fade is. Anyway, so I
Spanish,
decided I had a feeling you were going to go with the Flor de Caña, so I went with the Ron Zacapa Solera 23, which is kind of your standard Zacapa. There's Zacapa XO. Those are the only two that I know of. Zacapa XO will run you about $100 a bottle, I think. But the Solera 23 it's like $50. To me, it sits right in between the Flor de Caña 12 and the Flor de Caña 18. I actually like the 12 a little bit better. The 18 is really complex, and it was almost too complex for me because my rum palate is still very, very, very unrefined. So I really enjoyed that 12. But for me, this Zacapa, which comes out of Guatemala, by the way, it has more complexity than the Flor de Caña 12, but it's got a little bit more sweetness than the Flor de Caña 18, and it really is kind of a nice, sits right in between as far as my palate is concerned. Let's see, it was founded in 1876. Ooh. I guess maybe this is the town. No, the town of Zacapa was founded in 1876. Wow, I went all the way back into the town's history. It just got weird. So let's see, get back to the information that I know you guys are going to want. Let's see, the keynotes. It's a wonderfully intricate with honeyed butterscotch, spiced oak, and raisined fruit, showcasing complexity of the Sistema Solera aging process, which I'm sure we could get into a lot of detail about that we're not going to. The appearance, it looks like rum. Sweet aromas of caramel, vanilla, cocoa, and butterscotch. These are all the flavors that you're going to pick up. Ex-American whiskey casks. I don't think they use those, though. Let's see. I probably should have read this before we started the show. Serving suggestions. They suggest that you drink it.
That's a good suggestion. I like that suggestion.
With one lump of pure, clear ice. See, John, you're supposed to ice your rum.
I've got ice in my rum.
Good for you. Here's a cocktail on here that I haven't tried.
Uh-oh.
So a standard measure of Zacapa 23, so let's call it a 1 ounce. Angostura bitters, Angostura orange bitters, and simple syrup. Huh. Interesting. I'd be curious to try that. I haven't tried that yet. Anyway, if you've had Zacapa, you know how good it is. If you haven't, you should really definitely try it. It's not the cheapest. Like I said, it's going to run you about $50 a bottle. But, sometimes you can find a deal on it here or there. Deep, dark, golden brown color to it. And you do get those honey notes on the nose. But I'm going to go in and jump in and take a couple of sips here.
Roger that. While you're doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit about how my pairing's going so far. As you can see, the Flor de Caña is more of a golden color. This is kind of the color you would expect rum to be. My ice is obviously melted because it is quite warm up here now, which is great. And surprisingly, I'm actually finding that this pairing is maybe not the best. While I often will pair Flor de Caña with a heavier, full-bodied, or even a medium-plus cigar out of Nicaragua, this maybe is a bit of a miss. I think because the Flor de Caña is quite sweet and there is a lot of that oaky character, and it does run over some of the nuances of the Fuente a little bit. What I am getting more out of the Fuente with the Flor de Caña, though, is a lot more of this sort of rich, creamy, nutty flavor, whereas that, all the influence of the Cameroon wrapper is kind of being lost from the heavy, sugary value of this Flor de Caña. It's an okay pairing, but I wouldn't probably pair these two again. This is, maybe go down to a Flor de Caña 12 and try it again, but I think the 18 is just a miss with the Fuente in my book.
So I was listening to you talk, and I was preparing myself for this to not be very good. And to me, this pairing is kind of perfect.
Ooh.
It tickles me in a really nice spot. There's, I'm really getting that butterscotch note off the Zacapa, and I don't know if it's a placebo effect because I just read that, but I'm really tasting that, and I'm not getting. There's no earthiness that's coming out of this. I'm getting that sugar cane flavor, a little bit of butterscotch, and there's some of that dried fruit that they're talking about that you're getting in there, and that's what I get every time I drink it, basically. But pardon the dead air, I had to take a puff, but it changes. It really changes the cigar. It becomes like I was saying before with the Henry Weinhardts, it becomes more earthy. The nutty notes are really, really prominent now. I mean, really prominent. Like this tastes like the nuttiest cigar I've ever smoked. And to compare it, or not compare it, but to complement it with the flavors that you get out of the Zacapa, that sugar cane with that butterscotch and some of the dried fruit, and you throw some nuts in there. I mean, it's like trail mix, but good.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the nuttiness that I'm getting is like almonds and cashews and peanuts all mixed together, which is, I mean, really, really good. But that high-end note from the Cameroon, that sort of elegant sweetness that we're talking about at the start, unfortunately gets lost. I mean, you know, if you really want to get more nuttiness out of the Arturo Fuente, this is a pretty good pairing. But it sounds like the Ron Zacapa there might be a better way to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and again, I mean, taste is always subjective. It could be that maybe they taste the same, and I like it and you don't. It could always happen. I mean, you could be wrong.
Absolutely. Just ask my girlfriend.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you. I don't know. There's when you start talking about the different kinds of nutty notes, and there's definitely a peanut note in there, and there's a little bit of almond. I mean, nothing like a walnut or anything like that. That kind of astringent flavor you get from a walnut. Astringent is not the right word, but you know that flavor I'm talking about from a walnut. It's kind of dry,
a little dry.
Yeah, it's not like that. But when you just take that sweetness from the Zacapa, a little bit of butterscotch, which I can't not taste now, and I really don't know if that's. I mean, it's got to be a little bit of a placebo effect, but it's just pairing really well. I mean, I would definitely revisit this, and it's better than the root beer. And I'm surprised. I really am surprised.
Well, while you're enjoying that pairing, I'm going to hop off to my third pairing because, you know, that just wasn't a big win. I could drink Florida Canyon all night, but I'd rather it pairs well with the cigar. So I'm moving a little out of my wheelhouse with the I didn't brew my own iced coffee because, I don't know, I'm lazy. But it's a Starbucks iced coffee. Now, it's funny because you ended up picking up a Frappuccino. Spoiler alert. I ended up just getting a straight iced coffee. And, you know, I'm not, no offense to Starbucks, but I'm not really their best customer because I tend to like better roasted beans. But, you know, Starbucks started in 1971. Of course, everyone should know by now they started in Seattle's Pike Place. If you've ever been to Seattle, you have to go to Pike Place Market. It's a pretty cool place. I'm going to go back there in September.
That's where they throw the fish, right?
That's where they throw the fish. Yeah, it's a cool place. Bought by Howard Schultz in 1987 and really took off from there. I mean, there's not really much to talk about this coffee. It's 110 calories, which is not too bad, actually. And it's iced coffee. And I'm going to take a couple sips here while Rob talks about his pairing.
I'm still sipping on the rum. So, and thank you for doing some Starbucks research because I didn't. I'll jump in and start talking about my next pairing. I went with the Frappuccino, and it's funny. Yours was 110 calories, John.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you said? This one's got a big sticker on the front that's you can probably read that there. It says 290 calories.
Good Lord!
In the Frappuccino here, but there's a lot of it in here. This is 13.7 fluid ounces, but this is more of like a coffee flavored beverage. You know, I mean, it's the main ingredient is Starbucks coffee, but after that, it just gets kind of weird. I always remember I actually worked at Starbucks for exactly 1 month. Hated that job. Hated it. It just did not fit with me. I know people who've worked there forever and they love it. So it's just kind of fits your personality. Didn't work for me. Plus I worked the morning shift, which I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
But I remember the stuff that we would mix to make the Frappuccino, and it would just come in this big vat, and it basically looked just like this, but it was really thick. And I don't know if they still do it the same way, but there's a lot of things that aren't coffee that are going into a Frappuccino. So I saw what you picked, and I actually I like those. The one that you picked up. I'm not a huge Starbucks guy either. I make my coffee at home, but whenever I do pick up an iced coffee, I pick up the kind that you got. And I just didn't want to double up, so I figured, what the hell, I'll go with the Frappuccino. And while you talk about your pairing, I'll put the rum down, fine, and jump into the Frappuccino.
I'll take things you won't overhear in New Orleans for 500, Alex, which is coming up next month, the IPCPR. Make sure to tune in for our coverage. It's going to be pretty fantastic. This is actually, and you can quote me on this, this is actually a really good iced coffee. I was expecting this to be like just a sugar bomb and, maybe a little burnt coffee, because Starbucks tends to have a little bit of a burnt flavor to it. I would drink this again. I would drink this if I wanted a nice coffee on a hot day. I wouldn't hesitate to pick this up. This is good. This is, it's balanced. And I already kind of cheated because I commonly smoke Cameroon cigars. One of my favorite things in the morning is to pick up a Hemingway short story and drink it with an espresso or a coffee. So I kind of knew that it was going to pair well. I would almost say that the iced coffee is still almost a little too sweet, but it pairs better than the Florida Canyon, because I think Cameroon wrappers, in my mind, really, really made, like, it's kind of in that Cuban Venn diagram for pairing with coffee. Like, it's a wrapper that pairs perfectly with coffee, and this is no exception. Like, even though this is an iced coffee, this is working really, really well for me. I'm enjoying it very much.
Now, after my first sip of the Frappuccino, it is really, really sweet.
Yeah.
But you kind of go into it expecting that. So I don't know if that makes it any easier to makes it more palatable or not. It's fine. It's like a dessert for me. If I wanted an iced coffee, I wouldn't get this. I would get the kind that you've got. And actually, John, they've got a low sugar version,
which I think is what I've got. Yeah, I think I've got the. Look on the thing if you can see it. It says lightly sweetened, which is, I think, why it's 110 calories, and I think that's good. Because I think any more sugar than this, and it'd not be good.
Well, there's actually one, or at least in the States, that has yours has that dark brown band on the bottom of the little wrapper there. It's got a light blue band that goes around, and it's
interesting.
I don't know if it's got like half the sugar or what, but I actually enjoy that one a little bit more. It's definitely it's a richer coffee flavor to me. This doesn't have a whole lot of coffee flavor to it. This is like a coffee milkshake, which is great. I enjoy that. So I'm not taking anything away from it. I'm just saying if I'm reaching for coffee, I'm not reaching for this. If I wanted a coffee milkshake, maybe I'd have this instead, because it's probably got fewer calories in it. But with that being said, pairing it with this with the cigar, the wrapper, the earthiness from the wrapper is kind of cutting through the sweetness of the coffee a little bit. So if you're picking up this Frappuccino to pair it, that might not be a positive for you. But for me, it is. It's cutting through that sweetness. It's making it a little less cloyingly sweet, and making it a bit more palatable for me. It's a good pairing. I knew that it's going to pair well, like you said, Cameroon and coffee. It just works. It even sounds like it works. So to try this pairing, I think we're pushing the whole definition of coffee. We're pushing the envelope there a little bit with this, but the pairing is fine. I don't know that I'd revisit it, just because not a big Frappuccino guy.
Just a reminder to our audience, you are listening to Sharing Our Pairings, episode 31, Cameroon time. We are broadcast around the world on cigarfederation.com, YouTube, the Cigar Federation app. And if you're fortunate enough to be listening on iTunes podcast or Android, we appreciate you tuning in. As always, make sure to get your questions in the Q&A Google Plus app. We're talking about Cameroon pairing, and we're on to the coffee segment here. And I think one of the things that I like about this, and again, Cameroons and cigars are kind of something I do fairly frequently. And I think what works for me in the pairing quite often is that the Cameroon brings out a lot of berry notes and a lot of complexity out of the coffee that I wouldn't otherwise necessarily pick up. And the coffee conversely picks up or pulls out a little bit more depth out of the cigar. I think that, if you're looking for a no-brainer pairing, any Cameroon wrapper in a cigar is a no-brainer, whether that's espresso, macchiato, straight black coffee, maybe an iced coffee. But, for me, I think I would probably stick with straight up coffee rather than any kind of sweetened coffee, because I think that sweetener does impact the flavor profile.
Yeah, I would agree. And, the more that I pair these two, taking small sips, not big gulps of the coffee, taking smaller sips of the Frappuccino, the pairing is still pretty good. But like you said, it's going to cut into the sweetness from the cigar, definitely. But the cigar is going to cut into the sweetness from the coffee. I think if you just went with an unsweetened iced coffee, which was what my plan was originally, and I don't know why I didn't do that, but it's, I think, just an unsweetened iced coffee, and the pairing would really shine for sure. Because these cigars really are, they're just damn good.
Yeah. And again, I think for the price, I would expect a cigar like this to be $9.50 plus, because it's just a really good, elegant, well-constructed, delicious cigar. But you can pick up Fuentes for $7.35. Like if you buy a box, these are in the low $7, which is phenomenal. And again, I go through the short stories quite often because it's a great little smoke. It's like a 40-minute smoke, which is perfect for one or two espressos or coffees. But that being said, I think maybe we'll turn to a couple audience questions, or one audience question, depending on what we got loaded up here. So
I was actually just looking at them.
Yeah, so I think we'll go with Harley, because Harley is always good for one or two questions every show we do, and appreciate that, Harley. Harley asks, it says, it looks like you guys are running the spectrum of pairings, which is true. We normally try to pair one type of beverage with cigars, and I think we're trying to try a different format here with Cameroon to try a variety of different pairings, to see more focused on the cigar, to see what goes with the cigar rather than whether the cigar goes with the beverage. And he asked, what is the best overall pairing, coffee, soda, booze, when it comes to cigars? Well, I don't think there's a good answer, and that's kind of going to be my answer, but drawn out a little bit longer. We've done 31 of these shows. We've been doing this for a year now, and I think the thing that we've learned more than anything is that what you think you're going to get out of a pairing isn't necessarily what you're going to get out of a pairing. Oftentimes our expectations are blown right out, and two, I don't think there's any one good pairing that always works. There's no universal pairing. Rum doesn't always go well with everything. Whiskey certainly doesn't. Beer certainly doesn't. That being said, we know that an IPA pairs really well with certain types of Kentucky Fried Cured tobacco. We found that in our experience. I know from past pairing that rum goes really well with a heavy Maduro or a heavier cigar. Whiskey tends to go well with a medium plus cigar as well. Cameroon is naturally going to go well with coffee. It's just the way it is. So is Cuban cigars. Cuban cigars go well with rum or coffee. What's your take on that, Ro?
I mean, I'm going to agree with you. It's all in the eye of the beholder, And again, that's one of the things that I love about doing this show is we kind of force ourselves to do it, right? I mean, it's not. This isn't your average approach to pairing something. If you're gonna sit down and smoke a cigar and pair it with something, you kind of pick one thing and you go with it. But we're pushing that a little bit. As far as what pairs best, I think that you kind of have an idea in your head going in. If you're an experienced enough cigar smoker where you're thinking about pairing, then you already have an idea of the cigars that you like. You have an idea of what your palate is as far as cigars are concerned. So I think you could probably kind of direct yourself. Sure, there's going to be, like John mentioned, there's going to be certain cigars that go well with certain things. Like a Maduro wrapper with rum, for the most part, tends to work for me. But I still think root beer's the catch-all, man. I don't know. I'm gonna find something that doesn't pair well with root beer. Actually, I just thought of a cigar that I think would not pair well. I think the J.D. Howard Reserve. I don't think that would pair well with with root beer, and I may actually try that. I think when you get into cigars that have a lot of nuanced flavor to them, and I would put the J.D. Howard in that category. It's got that kind of a jalapeno spice to it. When you start getting nuanced like that, where you're focusing down on the flavor so much that there's so many different little things going on, when you start bringing in extra flavors from a pairing, then it's going to start getting squirrely on you. That would kind of be my thought. But I mean, it all depends on what you're doing. You know, I mean, if I've got a Maduro and it's noon, I'm probably not going to reach for rum unless it's, I mean, who knows, maybe I will. Maybe it's going to turn out to be a really fun day. Who knows? But, you know, maybe you're reaching for a coffee in the morning or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that are going to dictate what I want to pair with. And sometimes I just reach for stuff that I think may or may not work. I mean, this last pairing that we're doing here is hard cider, and I'm not sure. And I suggested it, and I really don't know why. I don't think it's going to be very good at all. But I don't know. We did a cider show, and I wasn't there for that one. So when we always talk about Cameroon wrappers, and I'm segueing into our next pairing. You like how I did that?
That was good. That's like pro level. You know,
yeah.
Pro level.
No, this is ESPN next level here. So the thing, we always talk about Cameroon wrappers, and we talk about it with a lot of different weird stuff that we can't feel like we can find a regular pairing to. Is Cameroon. Then it kind of became a joke. So I figured instead of just sticking with the root beer and the rum, and the coffee, which we know is going to work, let's go outside the box and see how Cameroon works with a hard cider. I'm going with a local company called Indigeny Reserve out of Sonora, California, where my mother-in-law lives. We actually had these. I guess cousin-in-law would be the right term. My wife's cousin, so I guess makes him cousin-in-law. Showed up to our Halloween party one year with a couple of 6-packs of these, and they were a big hit. And so I was looking for them everywhere. And it's a pretty distinct bottle. I mean, it's that kind of aluminum. I guess this is an aluminum bottle. The kind they serve.
Aluminium, if you're listening from the UK.
Yeah, the stuff they serve at sporting events, so you don't break the bottle over the guy sitting next to you. And we looked for them, and you can't really find them anywhere because it's a really, really small, really new company. Got some information on them here. They started. I switched pages. Damn it. Totally family owned. Jay and Judy Watson. They opened Indigeny Reserve to the public in 2012. Nobody cares what Jay and Jody used to do. Their son Joe is the orchard manager. He's the cider maker and the chief lab technician. Everything's organic. They grow everything on site. They also make brandy, an apple brandy that is quite tasty. And actually, one of the cool things, they'll sell it in really small barrels. So you just turn the little knob on the barrel, and so you can get it out of the barrel. So it's still aging while you've got it. And then you just go back and they'll refill the barrel for you. And they do some smaller run stuff. They do a berry and apple cider that you can only get at their location. They're, like I said, they're really, really new, but it's probably the best cider that I've ever had. I'm not a big cider guy, but a lot of people in my family are. So we always have it at family events, Angry Orchards and those. But this is probably the best one that I've ever had. It's extra crisp. It's not quite as sweet. It says extra crisp. I'm not proclaiming that it's extra crisp. They are. But yeah, it's probably the best one that I've had. And if you take one of these, you pour it into a big mug, and put a shot of Fireball whiskey in there. I'm telling you, man, nice. It sounds silly, but it's really good. And there's a name for it, and I can't think of what it is. And there was another one. There's a caramel flavored vodka that I think Smirnoff makes or something. If you do that, you get a caramel apple type scenario happening. I haven't tried that one yet, but I think you can do that with pretty much any apple cider. But try that. Drop a shot of Fireball whiskey in there. It gives it a nice apple cinnamon flavor.
Giggity. I actually do enjoy ciders. For me, if it's a really hot summer day, one of the drinks I really, really enjoy on a patio is a cider. Because, it is alcohol. but it's crisp, and I tend to go for crisp ciders. I don't like the sweet ciders for me. It's just gross. It's too sticky sweet. So I tend to like the more complex, more flavorful ciders.
Yeah, absolutely.
I went with Magners. I've had these before. They're very apple-y. Like you get a lot of apple flavor. They actually grow 17 different varieties of apple to blend in for their cider. So, I mean that's a
Wow.
lot. Of course, this is Irish, which I don't know if whatever. It's from Ireland, grown or the distillery, I guess you'd call it, or brewery. I don't know whether you call it a brewery or distillery, but it's at Dowd's Lane, and they've been there since 1935. What's interesting about them is instead of just going to a pasteurization phase after the cider is ready, which most cider companies would do, they actually add more yeast to do an extra level of fermentation, and then they age the cider for mature it for up to another 2 years. So it tends to get you a little bit more complex flavors. A lot more of the apple comes through. What's curious, especially after doing the cider show and finding some big hits and big misses, I'm shocked to find, because I've been cheating while you're talking, just taking another sip there. What's shocking to me is that this cigar is absolutely rampaging right over this cider. And if you'd asked me before the show, I would have said, well, what my expectation was is that the cider was just going to be too tart and too appley for this cigar. And in fact, it's the opposite. This cigar is absolutely just running right over the cigar. I take a sip of the cider, I take a puff of the cigar, and I really can't get anything out of this cider at all. I'm actually going to cleanse my palate and see if I can bring it back. But, it's really, I was kind of expecting it to be a huge miss, but in a different way.
I think I had the same feelings that you did. And if anybody happened to be looking at my little video window, you were talking, but while I took my first sip, it wasn't a good reaction. But it's just because it's so much more tart than everything else that we've had.
Absolutely.
But I think since that tartness has worn off, my palate's acclimated to it. I'm kind of having the same experience that you're having. I'm still getting that apple flavor, and it's still it's a dry, crisp flavor that I like. But for the most part, the cigar just is, like you said, just kind of raging right over it. And that does surprise me a little bit. I thought that, I think I was in the same thought space that you were in, where it was just going to be, this is going to be so tart and it's just going to, it's going to be nasty. But, it's not bad, but it's doing a disservice, I think, to the cider, which, I mean, I really enjoy this cider, and to kind of, to just kind of waste it. That makes sense.
It does. And I think what's interesting is that the effervescence quality of the cider is almost acting like a palate cleanser for the cigar, which, is great. And I'm getting lots of, again, like tons and tons of really complex nuttiness out of the cigar. So the cigar is fantastic. And I mean, if you want to spend a few bucks on a cider and really get nothing out of the cigar, or out of the cider, but get a lot more out of the cigar, you can. But that's really not why you're pairing, in my mind anyways. So the cigar is still phenomenal. Like it's not taking anything away from the cigar. And in fact, I feel like the effervescence is bringing a lot more out of the cigar. But the cider is just, it's like it's a cold drink, and I can't taste anything from the cider.
It's cold and it's got bubbles.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same spot that you are. And it is a bit disappointing because, like I said, I do enjoy this stuff, and it's not cheap.
No.
And I mean, it's 5.5% alcohol by volume. It's gluten-free, which is awesome. They're about $9. It's $10 for a 6-pack of this stuff. And, we always pick some up when we go up to see my mother-in-law. Excuse me. So we only have so many of them at the house. And it's kind of like when my wife grabs one and opens it, I kind of look at her sideways like, what do you... You're kind of breaking into the vault there, because we only have so many of them, but we tend to replenish a lot. One thing, I want to go back to their website. We talked about their website's very basic as far as the design is, but they've got a lot of information. It's indigenyreserve.com, INDIGENY reserve.com. They've got some interesting recipes on here that you can make with the cider. They've got an Indigene holiday fondue, apple pancakes with cider sauce, chocolate brandy balls, which, I mean, I'm more of a rum ball guy, but brandy balls, hot buttered rum, apple cider, and apple cider waffles. I kind of want to have all of that. So
All at the same time?
No, on different days. On different days. No, but yeah, no, that's a little bit too much sugar for me. I feel like I need to drink water just after reading that. But I like when, like we talked about it, when companies put a little effort into their website and
Yep.
give you some information and ways that you can use their product in maybe non-traditional ways. Hot buttered rum, apple cider. I'm gonna have to tell my wife about that because she likes those. She's a big fan of the hot toddy.
So just again, I'm about maybe just slightly past the halfway point of the cigar, and it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways. Phenomenal cigar. Like this is, I just don't get a bad Arturo Fuente. This is a really good cigar. Really enjoying it very, very much. And I'm going to grab another audience question, kind of as we finish up here. Bob Dog, thanks for asking a question. We appreciate it. Bob Dog's usually good for a question or two. And kind of a little off topic here, but Bob Dog wants to know which cigar and beverage combo is each of our all-time favorite or go-to combo. And it's kind of interesting because we didn't do a wrap-up show. Or did we do a wrap-up show? I don't even remember if we did a wrap-up show for the year in review. But
we didn't.
I think for me, because I don't like to stick to one, I'm going to give you two or three, Bob Dog. The immediate one that comes to mind is the Drew Estate IPA pairing that we did with their cigar line, the Smoking Monk IPA, which going into that we expected to be the worst of the series, and ended up being pretty much my favorite. And it was really good. Kentucky fire cured ish tobacco, at least that's what it tasted like. Pairs excellently with an IPA. My go-to is probably any 1502 cigar with Flor de Caña. It's a no-brainer. Like a 1502 Ruby and Flor de Caña, I'm in heaven. And actually, going back to a show we just recently did, really enjoyed the Dram Cask #1. It was a Connecticut wrapper with whiskey. And I mean, that was just exceeded expectations, and I didn't really have a lot of expectations, and kind of really blew me away. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's funny when you bring up the Dram 1. And actually, for those of you listening, we're going to have Dram cigars on Cigar Chat tomorrow. So we'll talk about it in a lot more detail, and I believe John will be sitting in as well. So it's going to be just like Cigar Chat meets sharing our pairings.
Boom.
So that just means we're going to be drinking some booze during Cigar Chat, which is nice. So that'll be fun. I can't remember. I know I paired with Glenmorangie, but I can't remember what else I paired with. And they had to be things that you sent me. Anyway, that paired well, I think, with all three of them. The one pairing that always comes back to me, and if you followed me at all or you looked at any of my reviews or anything, this is the one pairing that I always mention, is the Padron 64 Maduro, preferably in a torpedo, and the Zaya rum, Zaya 12-year rum.
Yeah.
That, and I've that was really, Zaya rum was kind of my gateway rum, if you will. Very easy to find. It's cheap. Cheap in the sense of a 12-year-old rum. It's 12. It's about $20 a bottle, give or take.
That's reasonable.
So it's real accessible. It's sweet. It's kind of easy to drink for someone who maybe doesn't necessarily drink spirits straight. My mother-in-law had never really, she calls it sipping rum. She had never really been a rum drinker before. She really isn't one now, but she does like the Zaya. But that pairing for me was always, that was the one that made me realize that I could take two things that I really like, put them together, and they both become better. So that's always the one that sticks out for me. And pretty much anything with root beer. I mean, we've kind of covered that.
Yeah, I've kind of gone back to just to finish up here. I kind of went back to the root beer. I was kind of cycling through while you're talking there to kind of get a sense of what my favorite pairing of the night is, and no surprise, I think Cameroon and a cigar is just, or Cameroon and a coffee is just a no-brainer. You can't go wrong. I think Cameroon and coffee is just, it's meant to pair together. But the root beer is good. The root beer is like you say, it's creamy. It's got a great mouthfeel. It's not too sugary sweet, which is nice. It's got a little bit more going on. If you pick up a root beer that's a craft root beer, it's going to have a lot more flavors, a lot more complexity to it. It's nuanced, which is good because I feel like the Fuente Hemingway, at least the signature for sure, and certainly any other Hemingway I've had, is nuanced as well. So they pair really well together. So I would say it's probably a tie, which is unusual for me. The root beer and coffee with a Cameron wrapper, either of those is going to go really, really well.
One more that I want to go back to from a previous show, and this is actually it was a cigar chat show, but I think you sat in, John. It was with Terrence from Casada. I think you sat in on that one. And during that show, I smoked the Casada keg, and I paired it with the Aphrodite from that Canadian company that I can't.
Dude, the Ciel?
Yeah, that. Whatever. Say that again, maybe a little bit slower.
Dude, the Ciel.
Yeah, that one.
That's the best French I can muster.
No, that was good. Just another quick anecdote. I tend to make these stories long because I ramble. But anyway, that was one of my favorite pairings ever. I love that beer, and that cigar went really, really well with it. When Matt Ross was in San Francisco, we met up and went to go do some beer drinking around San Francisco. And the first place that we went to was this real stuffy, hoity-toity beer bar. It was they had a ton of beers on tap, like 70. And they actually had the Aphrodite on tap. And I made Matt. I said, Matt, you have to buy this. Although you have to get a pour of this.
Yeah.
We didn't do flights. We just went straight for it, man. We did full pours.
Damn.
We had the whole day. It was actually a lot of fun. And it was just like, I asked the guy, I was like, how do you say it? And he said it really fast and looked at me like I was a moron. I'm like, bro, it's not like I asked you how to say John Smith. I asked you how to say this word with like these little accents and things. It's not English. It's not standard English. It's French. So it's not like I'm asking you how to pronounce quarter pounder. I mean, I don't know. It was a little bit stuffy, but they had a lot of really good beers and great hamburgers too. For me, for my favorite pairing of the night, it's the rum, man. And and I think it's because it caught me a little bit off guard. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I expected the root beer to be good, and it was. And that pairing might actually be a little bit better, but I was pleasantly surprised with the rum. And plus, it's rum. So there's that. I think that's probably my favorite pairing, and I could see myself maybe reaching for another one of these. Maybe reaching for one of these work of art Maduros and pairing it up with the Zacapa would really be something pretty nice, I think.
Well, as Rob was mentioning a couple minutes ago, we're going to be back again tomorrow, Cigar Chat. I've actually managed to supplant Logan this time. Normally, I sit in for Rob when he's got baseball going on, but this time we're just ousting Logan, so it's going to be, like he said, all booze all the time. Sitting down with Joe Quisano from Dram Cigars. Should be a good time. We're going to drink some scotch, talk about cigars. It's going to be a really interesting show, actually. Looking forward to that one. Make sure to tune in next Wednesday. You guys are doing a pipe dummies on Captain Black on Wednesday. And then Moya Riez Cigars on Thursday with Danny and Nelson. So that should be a good time.
Yeah, with they've got the new rake, which I'll be reviewing here pretty soon. And the other one that they just came out with, the finger trap, the Chinese finger trap, which I don't know, Danny shot me a text. I guess they're getting some flack online for the marketing of that. I think the marketing of it's pretty cool. And if that rubs you the wrong way, then I think that you just need to just relax. And I mean, there's bigger problems, man. If you don't like the way it looks, you don't like the way it looks. I mean, if you're offended by it, that's one thing. But even then, I still think you need to relax. But anyway, I don't know. I'm not going to go too far on that, but we'll be able to talk about that, so that'll be good. And plus, tomorrow I know we're going to have some drams to give away. So,
Nice.
and I know that especially with this crowd in particular, which is why I mention it. So make sure that you're there for that as well.
And make sure to get your questions in via Q&A app on Google+. We really appreciate your questions. We enjoy asking questions because a lot of times our audience is really good at coming up with stuff that, we're used to doing interviews. And I think the nice thing about our audience, who's pretty interactive, is they like to come up with stuff that interests them. And so we can ask the manufacturers questions that are relevant to you guys. So please get your questions in. Appreciate it. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Again, I know our podcast listeners are out there and you guys listen in droves. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back again in a couple weeks. And as we always say, make sure to drink better and drink less.